holidays, when the country celebrated the new 2018 year. Russian legislators celebrated the 5th anniversary of Dima Yakovlev's law prohibiting Americans from adopting our orphans. In the village of Ajibalev, 7-year-old Diana Luchko was dying painfully. Name changed. According to investigators, she was strangled by her adoptive father. At the New Year's matinee, the baby refused to go home, cried that she would be killed there, asked for help, ran out into the street. But the people were having fun and didn't pay attention. On the morning of the 4th of January, Diana was gone. All night long her screams could be heard from their house, and then she was lying on the sofa by the porch in her shirt. And this monster also denied, they say, "I don't know anything." The villagers are not stingy with comments these days. A monster without, a madman. With such epithets, they generously reward a suspect in infanticide. It remains to understand how 50-year-old Peter Romanenko and his 48-year-old wife, Ekaterina Steblevskaya, who does not have their own housing. Nomads from village to village managed to take custody of as many as 8 children in a short time. According to the neighbors, they were not going to stop there. Stop the murder. The characteristics of Ekaterina Grigorievna Steblevskaya during her work as a subsidiary worker have proven themselves on the negative side. Low performance, high self-esteem. Easily insinuated into trust, has a tendency to provide information in a distorted form. Flattering and eloquent. These facts indicate the impossibility of social adaptation, the impossibility of providing children for upbringing. Characteristics of Peter Ivanovich Romanenko. During his work as a cattle herder, he proved himself as a diligent, undisciplined, not loving his work person. He performed his work at a low level, worked poorly, needed constant monitoring, had a tendency to absenteeism, was prone to illegal behavior, had no authority among colleagues. Certificates are issued at the place of request. In the village of Stashina, home of the Zherkovsky district of the Smolensk region, this couple appeared in the 2016 year. At first glance, people are like people. Husband, wife, former citizens of Ukraine. The marriage between Katerina and Peter was registered in the 2010 year, a year before they moved. We were also surprised that earlier he also had the surname Steblevsky. But then he got a new passport in Russia, and for some reason became Romanenko. Maybe in Ukraine, it also takes some years for him, the local administration reflects. They were given a social rental house. Small, but with a fresh renovation and for a nominal rent. They offered me a job. He is a shepherd and a stockman for a subsidiary worker. Soon the visitors asked the director of the state farm for positive characteristics. They say, "We want to take care of orphans." At first, there was no reason to refuse them. They brought 3 children, a boy and 2 girls. Then another one, very small. Their own mother was put on trial, and therefore the children were seized, they recall in the village. The head of the family, Peter, took his long hair in a bun. Tail behind, beard in front. He glared sullenly, spoke loudly and incomprehensibly. With a strong accent. By local standards, a suspicious person. He liked to insert a word about religion. He declared that he was a deacon and could not work as a shepherd, but wanted to be a priest. Katerina, too, was not happy about the positions of auxiliary workers. "I thought I deserved more." The children taken into care grew up quieter than water below the grass. They will sit like a sparrow in a row with their hands folded on their knees. Recalls the director of the agricultural cooperative, Viktor Stupik. But well-fed, cleanly dressed. "Dad, Mom, you can't find fault. But the eyes are scared." Their house was 4 doors down from ours, says a 60-year-old neighbor Valentina Mikhailovna Kovaleva. "We keep sheep, and somehow Peter asked to sell him a pair. And suddenly he started joking. Like, do I know how sheep have sexual intercourse in the animal world? Can a mother sleep with her children, or a father?" I then sharply besieged him. The silence in the neighboring house seemed unnatural to Valentina Mikhailovna. "You can hear the clock ticking. Normal children can't behave like that." A couple of times, the pensioner tried to go to custody, but did not dare. "You see, this is a village. And what if I raise a nonsense on a good person? And then how can I look him in the eye?" The village people watched the whole summer as the children with Peter plowed in the kosht, grazed the herd. That is, the small fry worked, and the so-called father twisted the cows' tails. Somehow the authorities noticed that the little boy's receiver was riding a horse alone against all safety rules. "I warned him not to repeat it," says Chairman Viktor Stupik. I figured out this couple right away. Who else could they have been lying to? Yes, they had all the thoughts to take more children, to buy a car. The workers are worthless, Nicola has no yard. And they pay very well for the receptionists. For children are several tens of thousands of federal payments, regional allowances, salaries to parents, benefits, and subsidies. Therefore, the director categorically refused the request to sign another characteristic for the orphanage. Yeah, first they'll bring a bunch of new kids here, and then they'll demand by law that I build them a 3-story mansion. There will be about 10 of them. Give me 160 meters. Peter will husk the seeds while we plow the whole world on them. The native mother of the first adoptees was acquitted, and she took the children back. Hard times have come for Peter Catherine. Again they came to the administration, begged to give them the necessary certificates for the next batch of orphans. To be honest, Ekaterina Grigorievna even knelt in front of me. Write a description. But I don't want any trouble. It's better to let them go away from sin, so I answered them. To the credit of Chairman Tupac, he not only asked the negligent workers to leave the farm, but also called the neighboring village. Informed that such people might appear, they say. I also went to the district guardianship. However, the family was still accepted in neighboring Ajibilev, which is about 20 kilometers away. In the spring of 2017, 4 new kids arrived with them. 10-year-old Irina separately, and 3 children from another dysfunctional family. 6-year-old Anechka and the twins, Dima and Darina. For 7 years. All from the same orphanage. At her new place of residence, Katerina turned around in full force. They made her the musical director of the kindergarten, in fact, another educator. Did she actually have a teaching diploma, and if she did, why didn't she demonstrate it even earlier, in the wall? There are not enough teachers in the population. Or did he just bend her out of pity for a homeless woman with foster children and a lazy husband? History is silent about this. Colleagues appreciated the new teacher, parents respected, children loved. Grigorievna is good, 3-year-old Alina proved. It was her mother who was one of the first to sound the alarm. She's too flattering, insincere. Outsider kids who are in her group and will kiss and hug and press to her heart. And therefore, Irina, Anya and Dima with Darina, as if strangers. She was very dry with them. If you don't like children, why did you take them? Alla Selimoneva is surprised. Selimoneva Muscovites. We came here because my daughter has a strong allergy, and in the Smolensk region, the ecology of the product from the vegetable garden is fresh milk. Only it turned out to be much more difficult to get used to the mentality of the locals. You can't hide in the village, they throw up their hands, Allah. Moreover, on the one hand, they are ready to discuss everyone and everything here, and on the other, when Darina begged to save her, they immediately hid in their homes and do not know anything. Allah showed photos from kindergarten and school matinees. The preschool graduation is at the end of May. Elegant Darina and Dima, with ribbons on their sides, pose next to the foster mother teacher. Both are smiling. And already the last pictures for the new year. At the matinee, Darina spoiled the fun. I did not go to tell the verse and was not happy about the gift. She's just shy, Grigorievna explained. She and her brother seem to have dimmed, so sad and tense, Alla Selimoneva explains all the time. Before that, someone broke Dima's arm, they explained that he himself fell unsuccessfully. At the same time, Ekaterina herself kept repeating what good guys she had. What kind of helpers are in the house, and that she is going to adopt them completely, so that even without payments. I can't say how much she spent on orphanages, but even the neighbors gave the girls a dress for the holidays. And it also seemed to me that especially recently the children were intimidated. Alla claims that she could not bind the homeless-looking village shepherd. Peter did not climb the career ladder. With the artistic and bright Grigorievna, Ekaterina often talked about her husband, what a wonderful person he was. When I once ran into Peter at the entrance to the kindergarten, I was still unpleasantly surprised, and what is this doing here? I couldn't imagine that he was her husband. At the very last Christmas tree in the club, where Darina threw a real tantrum, shouting that she would not go home because she would be killed there. Alla Selimoneva was not. She says that if she had come, she probably would have tried to help. Not fate. On the 3rd of January, Katerina left the village. She told someone that she was going to her aunt in Belgorod, someone to Rostov-on-Don. There was another version that suddenly fell ill mom in Ukraine. But since the transport from them does not go every day, and it was necessary to get on the crossbar, The trip was clearly planned in advance. Frowning, as usual, Peter helped to carry her heavy bags with goodies. The children stayed on it, although they shouldn't have, because the official guardianship is issued to Katerina, and he is nobody at all. The locals are outraged. Police officers removed Ekaterina Steblevskaya from a train in Voronezh the next morning. Before that, the neighbors tried to call her on the phone and sent some to inform her about the death of little Darina. But she didn't pick up the phone. According to local media reports, Peter could abuse and then strangle the girl in front of the other children. That night, a shop caught fire in the village, and he, providing himself with an alibi, said that he was on fire. He came back, they say, and she was lying in one t-shirt on the porch. And before that, the children were screaming all night. Oh, how they screamed. The villagers are wailing now. Darina was buried, as they say, at the expense of the administration. And even before the funeral, Grigorievna, as if nothing had happened, went to work in a kindergarten. And how can I forbid her? She didn't kill her. Anastasia Alexandrovna Yankovskaya rushes to the defense of the main teacher and is outraged by those parents who, after the incident, refused to bring their younger ones to the group. The woman got it already. The rest of her children were taken away from her. Her whole life is broken now, she sighs. Local media stories are also full of sentimental details. And how Katerina sobbed in the cemetery, how she asked everyone and everyone if her daughter would like the dress of a real princess, in which she lay in a coffin. What big bumps were the eyes! What fluffy eyelashes! Anna exclaimed to the local journalists on the dictaphone. The beast. The fiend. It was as if a demon possessed him. She blamed her husband for everything, as if she hadn't lived with this man for years. I didn't know what to expect from him. I will never believe that Katerina did not suspect that Peter molested the girl, and maybe other children. Alla Selimoneva is sure. She is far from a stupid woman. Everyone around saw what he was like, but she wasn't. Everyone understood that something was going on with the kids, except for her. And at the same time she left, leaving such small and defenseless children for an obviously strange person. How can she even be allowed to approach other kids now? However, in common sense, and a sense of self-preservation, you cannot refuse banter to a close one. When, after Peter's arrest, the investigator called and said that he would come for his things, they should be sent for forensic examination. Regarding finding possible traces of other crimes, Katerina said that she did not have any of her husband's clothes left. She burned everything right away. It was already dark when they managed to get into the unsightly house of the Stablevskys on the village outskirts. A small courtyard, a porch sofa dusted with snow. Darina was lying dead here. Dark windows. Only in the farthest room, the bright spot of the TV flickers. The hostess calmly watches the series. How can she not be afraid of being alone there, in the looking glass, where children's laughter sounded until recently? Finally, the door opens. Ekaterina Grigorievna looks taut as a violin string. He broke my life, killed, and destroyed everything. But the children want to come back, and I will fight for them. That's all she says about her arrested husband. And also that she saw the foster children, and even talked to them. And they asked to go home to their mother, that is, to her. But these children also have a biological mother. Where is she? And what did she do that putting the kids in such hands was the best way out for them? The traces lead to the town of Shatolev, where the boarding school is located, from where, as it turned out, the Stablevsky family received all 8 foster children. It's a good 200 kilometers from Ajibolev. You can't go on a date with gifts to the children. However, the local director Galina Alexandrovna Sokolova claims that she immediately liked the future guardians, and did not arouse any suspicions. The children loved them. Their documents were all in perfect order, and so were their preparations. There is a state procedure, and they have passed it from our side. There are no violations. And what impression did Peter leave? Only good things. Galina Sokolova has been working in Shatolev for more than 20 years. She enjoys unquestionable authority, and her boarding school is called a role model everywhere. It's probably surprising that a teacher with a lot of experience liked the future killer of a little girl. And the chairman of the state farm, Viktor Stupik, who is not a teacher at all, but a businessman, immediately realized that the children fell into the wrong hands. Yes, well, what kind of payments are there? They are not so small, laughs Galina Sokolova. So by village standards, and 10,000 for one is a lot of money. And there are 4 of them, aren't there? Were the representatives of the boarding school supposed to visit the children, talk to them, see what conditions they live in? We have the right to work with the family only when they ask us to. It's not necessary. And geographically, it's quite far to get to them. But there are guardianship authorities who were obliged to control everything on the spot. And the fact that the Stablevskys did not have their own housing, permanent residence, good income. It is unclear from where they got positive characteristics. Has it been checked somehow? I repeat, they had all their documents in perfect order. What about the birth mother of these children? Maybe she's looking for them. Sokolova sighs. Oh, these parents, they're drunks, they didn't need children at all. And if he is looking for it, it's a promove, not love. In any case, she never showed up here. It was not difficult to find Victoria Luchina. There is such a thing as social networks. She didn't know about her daughter's death. The information was passed to her village, but no one notified her. Where should I go? What to do? The young woman repeated in confusion. Her story is tough and simple at the same time. The village, there is no work, there are no good men. I didn't drink often on the bottom. It didn't work out with the father of Darina and Dima's older children. The father of little Anya adopted the twins, but then she kicked him out for treason. Our living conditions are poor, the house is small, the heating is stove. Sometimes I was drunk and didn't wash the dishes. But I loved children, don't think. But one day I had a big fight with a neighbor, and she promised to write to the guardianship authorities to take them away. I thought it was scary, but it turned out it wasn't. The children were eaten when Victoria was in the hospital, giving birth to her fourth daughter. I return home, and there is no one there. It turns out that I was deprived of my rights back in December, and the paper came only in March. You tried to get the children back somehow. The woman shudders. I'm afraid. What if my last daughter is taken away from me? According to her story, no one touched their family, did not try to make sure that the kids stayed with their mother. They just came and forcibly took it away. The persuasiveness of the words was added by the fact that Vika did not anger the grief with vodka, mourning Darina. And temporarily leaving the fourth baby to her mother, she packed up. And the next day arrived almost 200 kilometers from Vyjabalav. I went to the guardianship authorities, found out where the other kids are at the moment. I went to them, promised that I would do everything to get them back. Will it work? What can an ordinary village and not too happy woman do against official arbitrariness and indifference? 10 years ago, when Dima Yakovlev's law was triumphantly adopted by a majority of votes in the State Duma, with 8 against, the legislators stated that they were guided solely by the good of children. And it's not just that American adoptive parents periodically torture them, they happen, but also in the system that has been created around the institution of international adoption itself. Everything is mired in corruption. One adoption costs firm $50,000 and above, experts assured. It was assumed that if you take care of orphanages, Russian citizens will stand up, violations will be many times less. To stimulate their desire, it is only necessary to increase the amount of payments. There really is more money. And one vicious practice immediately replaced another. Now kids, especially in the provinces, are often given to alcoholics and parasites. To dubious individuals, without really checking anything, in batches. 4 or 5, or even more people in one hand. A loud scandal with the guardian Svetlana Del, who was accused of bullying 10 foster children, did not change anything. Yes, they stopped killing Russian children in America. They began to be killed at home. 1017th year. A 28-year-old foster mother from the Kaluga region was sentenced. They even killed their daughter for lack of self-service skills and disobedience. The corpse was buried in the forest. 2016th year. In Kalachinsk, 4 foster children burned down from an exploding TV. My parents were not at home at night. 2016th year. In the Lipetsk region, guardians brutally killed an adopted girl. More than 60 scars were found on her body. The child was sexually abused. In the 2015 year, 7 foster children died from the crime of foster parents. In total, since the adoption of Dima Yakovlev's law, several dozen children have become victims of negligent Russian adoptive parents, according to various sources. Is there any benefit for orphanages, courts and guardianship authorities to give minor wards to unknown people, in fact, a homeless person and a tumbleweed? Or they do it solely for the sake of the future happiness of orphans, and sometimes they just make mistakes. In any case, Darina Luchina, alas, cannot be returned. But the blame for her death lies not only on Pyotr Romanenko, but on all those who should have and could have stopped him. In the spring of the 2019 year, the foster father of the murdered girl was sentenced to 23 years in prison. Under the articles of rape using the helpless state of the victim, who had not reached the age of 14. Other acts of a sexual nature with the use of violence, using the helpless state of the victim. Committed against a person under the age of 14. Murders of a minor involving rape and violent acts of a sexual nature. As it became known, the investigative department of the Investigative Committee for the Smolensk region opened a criminal case on January 9, 2000 of the 18th year, on the fact of negligence of officials of the body of the prevention and neglect system. There is no information about the results of this case.